From the House of L to the House of Lords, here's a look at the brand new McFarlane Toys DC Superpowers Justice Lords Superman. The Superman of Earth 50 leads the Justice Lords, a Justice League from an alternate universe where they enforce law and order through any means necessary. I don't really think any of us are ready for a Man of Steel that enforces martial law. Though, just before we get a closer look at the new Superpowers Justice Lord Superman, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did make this review possible by providing the sample we're looking at here. Superman is going to stand the same as the Superman from before. He's 4.5 inches in height, or the figure's about 11.5 centimeters tall. Speaking of that, Soups, here's what the figure looks like with the original Superpowers Superman. Same body, yes. Same head sculpt, sure. But what they have done differently is printed not only the logo a little bit larger on the Lord's version of Superman, but they also gave him now a different fabric type of cape. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. Speaking of other alternate reality characters, here's what the figure looks like with the Batman from Zur&R. And then, of course, on this side, one of my still favorite figures we've gotten from the Superpowers line, the Blue Cowl Batman. Sigh. No accessories come packed along with Superman. Even, in fact, the original Superman, just because he possessed only closed fists, he wouldn't even have the means to hold any weapon anyways. But still, though, a little shard of kryptonite could have gone a long way, especially if you're going to try to take down the Man of Steel. What I do really like about this figure, though, is while it is, yes, using the same body as the other Superman, they have made a few little notable changes. Being the biggest one is the fact that they've now given him gray on the side of his head. If we were to bring back, of course, that Superman, not only can you see that his locks are still black, so he doesn't have the gray on the sides, but this Superman also has red eyes, almost as if he's ready to use his heat ray vision. Again, the head sculpts are exactly the same, but I do like, though, I like the coloring on this Superman a little bit better, the one that I'm tapping with on the side with my finger. I feel like the face is a little too pale, but maybe it works really well with the idea that this Superman is now not so much evil, but have taken control of his matters. The figure also, as you can see, is, yes, using the same body, but I did already mention, though, that when it came to the cape, they're actually using a much softer material, as opposed to the Superman that we did get from before, which, if you have that figure, you already know, it's kind of more of a denser, crinkly kind of material. It's much shinier as well, but it also is much more prone to showing wrinkles. Has, of course, the Superman logo on the back, which by this now being the Lord's version, while I do like, again, the fabric that they've used, there is, of course, no, obviously, familiar Superman symbol on the back. I do, in a way, wish that they could give us a version 2 Superman, at least of the original one, so we could get more of a material like this. Because I think, again, like the material's a little bit more easier to work with. It is also a lot more, there's additional material that they obviously have used on the front here. Normally, though, that would have bothered me. Like, if we looked at the original Superman, I did wish that the fabric was a little bit more pulled back, so that so much of it was actually across his shoulders. But considering that when it comes to Lord's Superman, really the cape should be really part of the front of his torso, then I don't mind the fact that you've got this excess. It's a little sloppier in some of the sections, but the fact that we have so much cape there on the actual shoulders, I think works really, really well. I just, though, wish that the coloring on the white was a little more brighter, so that if you were to look at the front of it, it would look like it'd be more of a gradual change then into the cape. Because as it is right now, the darker coloring that they used for the white, it actually comes across more like a really light gray as opposed to white. I think it should have been a lot brighter than what it was, so it would work a lot better to look like the cape was still part of it. He has that painted on the sides of his shoulders. He also has it down below here on his arms. What they found was a smart way of doing this is if you look at the shoulders, you would swear that this is an additional sculpted piece that wasn't on the original Superman. And yet, though, if you look at the original Superman, the way they've deliberately sculpted the shoulders and painted it the way they did on this, it actually looks like this is now a new tooled piece, when actually it's still the muscled shoulder of Superman. They just simply have painted it right around the outline of where that muscle ends. Very smart use of the way they've painted that. Of course, he is missing his lower trunks. He's basically an all black clad body, but he does now have there the silver, kind of more of, again, that off gray circular shape on the front, and then he's got the majority of then his belt behind it. It's, again, not a bad looking Superman. On the back, though, I can't help but notice I got one little line here. I don't really know why. I'm sure it's just the way that they took the molding, and it probably just stops right here. They probably took two halves and connected them in the middle, and there's just only the gap left behind of where, obviously, those didn't meet right in the middle. But obviously, you're only going to have the cape covering over it anyway, so you're never really going to see it. The figure is going to be limited when it comes to posability, but goes with the territory, of course, of Superpowers figures, that they only really have it in the head, the shoulders, the legs, the top of the legs at least, and the knees. going through all of that again and actually showing you guys. So Superman, Justice Lord's version, does have just a straight swivel on the head. So it only just rotates all the way around. That's as good as you're only going to get with this figure. The arms, though, at least rotate all the way around. All the way around. No swivel or anything in the wrists. No swivel at all in the waist. And then legs go forward and back. And there's only just, again, a bend in the knee. Now, if you think to yourself, that's very limited. The original superpowers, while also possessing at least a gimmick, these figures don't have now any gimmicks or anything like that. You wouldn't be able to squeeze the legs. But the articulation is about the same, even possessing it also in the knees. So they haven't changed anything or limited the amount of posability on the newer superpowers figures versus the original ones. I like to look at this Superman. I can only hope, though, the fact that we have the introduction now of Justice Lord's Superman, that we're also going to follow suit, so to speak, with the rest of the remaining Justice League members. I don't think it necessarily would work to use this Batman, for example, to get a Justice Lord's Batman. But, I think this Batman would work really well for it. While, again, maybe not working as well for the initial release of Batman, it worked really well for Zur-En-Arrh Batman. I think they could also use that same mold again to give us a Justice Lord's Batman. Hey, why not? While I don't think the Page Punchers line has done all that well for McFarlane Toys, I think the concept of actually including a comic with a figure could be something also that they carried over here to the Superpowers. Because after all, the original Superpowers toys did come included with a mini comic. I think that would be a prime time to incorporate that idea. Again, just carry it over from the Page Punchers to something I feel would work a little bit more successfully. Plus, also from the printing standpoint of making a comic, having it smaller in size, because I think the mini comic that comes included with Superpowers figures were like a quarter the size of a standard comic. Not only would they be saving the cost of not producing the Page Punchers, but also as well they'd be saving the cost of producing the comic, because again it would only be a quarter of the size. I do hope, though, while maybe not including accessories, which again is a bit of a bummer that some of the Superpowers have not had anything in the way of things, other Superpowers figures have. But, though, for the figures that don't have it, including, though, a mini comic, might be a good idea, not only to pay nostalgic back to the original toy line that Kenner produced, but also as well incorporating the idea of a comic with a figure. Would you guys like that? Do you think that would be a good idea, having a mini comic? Because after all, again, the original Kenner figures did have that. Want to carry that idea over as well to the newer Superpowers stuff as well. Have you guys had the chance to pick up the new Justice Lord's Superman? And what do you think of that on paper? Do you like the idea that they're now doing Justice Lord characters? And would you like to see them also approach the remaining League members also in the same similar Superpowers style? Let me know down below in the comment section. Big thank you once again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the brand new Superpowers Justice Lord's Superman that we had the chance to have a look at this review. If you guys are interested, this guy should be available right now in not only retail stores, or if you don't have any luck to find these in the wild, you can also check online various sites, such as like Entertainment Earth, I think also have these guys currently in stock. You can click the link down below in the video description that will take you on over to Entertainment Earth. If you guys did enjoy this video, I want to hit it with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and would like to certainly be on board for more Superpower stuff, just kind of looking around right now. I may have one more figure that we will be looking at in an upcoming review. So make sure you're coming back to that. In the meantime, though, if you want to go back and check out my other earlier reviews of the Superpowers line, popping up at the very end of this video, just into the far corners of the screen, one playlist will be actually for all the stuff from McFarlane Toys. The other adjacent playlist on the other side of the screen will be all the stuff that I've looked at from Superpowers. So feel free, you got a little bit of time on your hands. You don't really need to go out with your friends for the next couple of hours, and you got a little bit of time to kill. Wanna kill your time watching the content for this channel. And of course, we're always going to have new stuff coming your way, guys. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.